Hello, everyone. Welcome to this 13th International Conference for Teachers of English, hosted by Universidad Pedagógica Nacional Francisco Morazán. Up next, we have the session Learner Engagement Through Virtual Apps by Gracia Maria Mendoza Chirinos. Gracia Maria Mendoza Chirinos, education specialist and researcher, manages and designs education projects to ensure access, quality of education, and safe learning spaces. She has been a language educator for 30 years, is a consultant and teacher trainer. She holds a Master of Education in International Education and a Master of Arts in TESOL. She has held a variety of positions in kinder to 12th grade, as well as higher education, and trained teachers in different parts of the world for close to 15 years. U.S. State Department alumni, recognized for project development for teachers' professional growth projects, and recognized by TESOL International Association for scholarship and service through the Virginia French Allen Award in 2018 and as an outstanding advocate in 2023. Research interests include computer-assisted language learning, computer-based language teaching, and methodological improvements for professional development. She is the founder and former president held to TESOL in Honduras, former president of Latin American and Caribbean TESOL, and past member of TESOL International Association Board of Directors, where she served as chair of the Finance Committee, in the working group to create the Membership Professional Council, working group for staff performance evaluation, and working group for fundraising. Without further ado, let's begin with the session, Learner Engagement Through Virtual Apps.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here today. Thank you to the conference organizers for the invitation to be part of this conference. It has been very exciting planning for it and getting ready to share with you a little bit about my experience with learner engagement through virtual apps. I want to give a big shout out to Sally for being so accommodating, patient, and facilitating the process for me to be able to deliver this session today. So thank you, Sally. As you know, I'm Gracia Mendoza. I'm from Honduras, and I'm a former board member for TESO International Association. I also served during that period of time as chair of the Finance Committee. I am the founder and former president of Health TESO in Honduras, and the former president of LAC TESO, which stands for Latin America and the Caribbean. And I'm an Electronic Village Online Assistant Coordinator, and I will tell you a little bit about that at the end of the session. So let's begin by describing what we are going to be discussing over the next 30 minutes. We're going to be talking about what learner engagement is, what it means to you as a language teacher, what it means to the learners, and how to make sure that we are following the path to learner engagement, which is one of our main goals as educators and as teachers who are interested in the learning of our students. Then we're going to talk a little bit about why this is important and how to do it, whether we are in person or we are online, what apps or tools you can use for specifically what purposes. And we're also going to reflect a little bit about the COVID-19 pandemic. Be ready to use the chat. And also at the end, we're going to be exploring one of the apps that I have been using. I will be explaining a little bit about how I have been using each of the apps for engagement. So let's begin with learner engagement. And as I was preparing this session, I found Sarah Mercer's article on Springer's Second Handbook of English Language Teaching about learner engagement, where she describes this engagement as a dynamic state. And I like this definition because she's talking about three things that are really important. She's talking about how to actively think as a learner, how to be focused on the task, right? And how to engage in language learning with joy. So I really like that she packed it into these three aspects, because what she's saying is that we want our students to be actively thinking, moving around, learning, manipulating, learning while they are on task, and that this is bringing them joy. They are positively being engaged in the classroom. And that means that we are creating the right ambience, the positive atmosphere, the right setup, and that we are varying the activities that we develop in the classrooms, that we are letting our learners influence and contribute to their learning and be responsible for what they are learning. We are being facilitators that allow them to shape their learning, and we are letting them be able to use their own needs and interests to create a pleasant learning experience. So, and this is going in the end to not only allow engagement, which is what we want every time we develop a lesson, but it's also going to help them become long life independent learners, right? Which is part of the goals. So I will be sharing the presentation with the organizing committee so that you can have access to this link and you can read a little bit more about her article in Springer's Handbook. It's really good, so I recommend that you read it. Also, we need to talk about, when we're talking about engagement, we need to discuss what are the types of learner engagement. And many authors will have different approaches or different types of learner engagement, but I especially like this article. And it talks about 6 ways or 6 types of learner engagement. And it begins with aspects related to the cognitive, emotional, and behavioral, but also the social, physical, and cultural. When we think about the cognitive aspects, we're thinking about things that spark our learners' curiosity and their interest. And this is connected to things that resonate with them and that they can relate with. And also creating that sense of anticipation every time they're coming to your lesson. We're also thinking about our learners as human beings, of course, that are emotional and that have feelings, and that sometimes might come into the classroom not feeling happy, but maybe feeling a little bit sad, maybe feeling a little bit angry. Something happened at home or something happened before your class. And it's not making them repress their feelings and then engage in your lesson, but it's actually creating that safe space for learning. And I have been working with social emotional learning for the last 5 years with USAID. And in that process, we have learned the importance of developing the social emotional learning skills so that we can allow our learners to reflect on their own abilities, skills, emotions, becoming aware of what they are feeling, because that is going to help them be more empathic with others, tolerate and respect what others are feeling, but also more interactively aware of what's happening in a situation and how to act and how to control the things that they can control and make sure that they are making responsible decisions based on what's happening, right? And that is what we need to think about when we're thinking about emotional engagement. How do we transform a situation that can be negative into something that can be positive for their learning, right? We need to be very observant and we need to have a very good relationship of trust with our students in order to do this. And part of this emotional aspect is the attention that we give to the fact that learners need to feel that they are investing important time in what they are learning, and they are investing something that is going to be positive for them. So these are all considerations when we think about emotional engagement. When we think about behavior or behavioral engagement, we're thinking about completion. We're thinking about our objectives. We're thinking about achievement. And of course, we want our students to complete, to achieve, because we need to evaluate them and then they need to pass our course or they need to pass their grade. But we want to make sure that we are creating and facilitating the tasks in a way that they feel that this is a task that it's going to be challenging them without frustrating them, allowing them to learn something new without giving them a feeling that this is not necessary, and creating the paths so that they can finish each step or move each step of the way to move to completion, right? And that those are the behaviors that we want to create in the classroom, because in the end those skills are going to be life skills that they're going to be needed when they graduate and they move to the workforce or they have their own businesses, right? Then we have the social aspect of engagement, and this has to do with the importance of interactions and collaborations. The fact that they feel that they are part of a community where they can contribute, and they can contribute to the growth of others. They contribute to their own growth, but they can contribute to the growth of others. So this is really important, that social interaction and that feeling that I'm collaborating for the greater good of my peers and of my community as well. So a lot of service learning activities are a good component to include when we want to engage our learners socially. Then the physical aspect, and this is true for everybody, that we don't want to, and especially during the time that we have been in at home with the COVID pandemic, just sitting down all the time is not healthy. So we want to really move our students around in the classroom, and if we are online, we want to make sure that there's also some type of movement or some type of stretching out or some type of brain breaks. We want to make sure that there are activities that we set up that are physical, and that mean moving around, looking around, changing corners in the classroom, or if they are at home online, move is getting away from the computer, going in and bring something, a scavenger hunt at home, something that really is physical and that allows them to move away from being on the computer or being sitting all the time. And that also builds engagement because we're switching the types of activities that we're using. And then the part of the culture, and this is related to two things: the culture that our students bring to the classroom from their own backgrounds at home, but also the culture of our classroom and our own organization, right? How do we make align those and combine those so that there is learning and development within our own classroom and within our own institution? So these are types of learner engagement and things that we need to keep in mind when we are incorporating apps to build engagement. So now I want you to, switching from me speaking, I want you to think. And I want you to share in the chat, and be sure to share in the chat your bullets and your ideas, because these conferences and these webinars are good for people learning from others. And I share things that I know and that I have experienced, but I also want to learn from the things that you have learned and done and experienced. So in the chat, please reflect and give me some bullets about why is learner engagement important to teacher, and why is learner engagement important to the learners, and how does learner engagement support language learning? So three things: why is it important to us as language teachers? Why is it important to the learners? And why and how does it contribute to effective language learning? And when you think about that and reflect about that, and I can tell you some bullets of mine, for teachers it's important because we have lessons to deliver that we believe are important in achieving the objectives of language learning. So that's how it connects to language learning. And then it is important for learners because this knowledge that they acquire in language learning is not going to be useful only for language learning, but we're also developing other skills and competencies that allow them to function in other courses, in other classes that they take within our school, but also in other spaces when they graduate and go into the world and develop their own life skills. Right. So these are my ideas. So I want to read your ideas and listen and hear what you have to say and what you think. So reflecting a little bit about the COVID pandemic, and this is something that you know very well because this was something that affected everybody worldwide. It definitely created shifts in the way that we learned and that we taught, right? It made us go fully online, go fully remote, break away from being in person, and creating a new environment for learning and teaching. It definitely made us change our business as usual. It was not being in the classroom anymore with the lessons that we had created over the years. It meant creating new lessons. And I know that through HELTA, we supported many teachers to create online lessons and gave them templates and gave them ideas and gave them recommendations. We created courses and trainings. We trained a group of over 67 public school teachers that we have been following up with and online supporting with materials and information on how to implement best practices in English language teaching. So this was a result of the work of the situation of the COVID pandemic, and it definitely affected the way that we worked. It made us more aware of the inequities and the gaps, and these gaps and inequities were heightened. They increased. They were, and we. It was clearer that we were all in the same storm, but not with the same tools. And we experienced that. And with my work with USAID, we could see that we had to differentiate the way that we approach learning because, as you know, and especially in Honduras, we had 2 years of online classes and we had a disengagement from education of around 500,000 learners. So it is important that we understand that maybe internet or connectivity worked from some areas, but for some other areas we needed to do different things. And this is where social media, WhatsApp, Telegram, all these platforms came into play. Learning management systems that could be used offline and only needed connectivity for a couple of minutes to synchronize information, and that was useful. But also the fact that we needed more books, we needed more things that were printed for those people that were in areas, especially rural areas in the western region of Honduras, that did not have access to connectivity and that needed printed information. So we realized, and it was made clear to us, that we needed to approach education in a completely different way depending on the areas where we were. And as teachers, we understand this because we understand that there are contextual differences that really make us differentiate the way that we approach teaching and learning. Also, I want you to reflect and share about this, right? Because thinking about the COVID pandemic and then thinking about your regular practice, think about the ways in which you have engaged the learners in the classroom and think about your own experience. As I share my own experience and I share about the things that I have done, I want you to think about the ways in which you have experienced engagement for your own professional development, but also for your learners. And what have you heard about engaging learners in the classroom and strategies that can be used? And I will be sharing a little bit about what I have been doing. It is important that we share and we always have an open discussion about this because when we share and we bring our own ideas to the conversation, we're bringing value and we are getting the word out about trends. And that is why this conference is so important because we're getting the word about what's happening in the field, what people are doing, and what things we can adapt and incorporate into our own lessons. So this is highly relevant. So be sure to share with others. Everything that you learn during this conference, don't keep it to yourself. Anything that can be shared, share it, and have an open discussion about the topic with people who couldn't attend the conference and with others that couldn't be here today. Make sure that you are sharing and adapting information and nourishing these sharing relationships and having these open discussions. That is highly important. So let me tell you a little bit about the how when you are in person. When you are in person, it is quote unquote a little bit easier to set up arrangements because you are in a physical classroom and you can move things around a little bit easier. You can also incorporate apps and technology that can be used in the classroom and that allow you to do quick things like diagnostics or quick assessments or start creating and building portfolios, for example, in the classroom. But you can also use different approaches like project-based and task-based learning, where there's a whole process involved and you are aiming to develop a project or to develop a product. Then competency-based language teaching, where you are using the language to develop specific competencies in your learners. That's something that can be done very well when you are in the in-person setting. And then content language integrated learning, where you are using other contents like science, mathematics, social studies to really develop the skills. The focus is the content and the means to build that language proficiency. And then most recently, right, the trend of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and how do we use that to our advantage? Instead of seeing it as a threat, how do we make sure, and that's a complete session on ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, how do we use it to the advantage of our learners so that they can improve their skills? So that's something that's out there that can help you, and that can help you when you are in person, but also online, and make sure that you are incorporating new activities that eventually your learners are going to be exposed to in real life. And we're making sure that we're bringing it into the language classrooms. Language educators, we have a huge responsibility. We're not only teaching the language, we're teaching the language and how it is used in different ways, in different places, in different situations. So we need to keep that in mind when we're thinking about the how in the in-person lessons. When we're thinking about the how online, we have the breakout rooms that are the equivalent of our group work when we're in person. We should not abuse breakout rooms. We should also not try to prevent, and this is something that I learned when teaching online, try to prevent popping into the breakout rooms. It's better to use tools that allow you to observe whether your learners are working or not, like the Google suite of tools. That allows you to see that they are working collaboratively in a Google Doc or on Google Slides or on Google Sheets. And it lets you observe whether they are engaged or not without invading their privacy in the breakout room. I learned that that could be intimidating and create anxiety, especially when you're learning a language, right? Your affective filter is up, and then you feel that you are under pressure when you see the teacher pop up in the breakout room and you're having a very good conversation, maybe. So it's important to make sure that we don't abuse breakout rooms and that we're not invading the privacy of that conversation. It happens when we are in person, right? And we move around the group, they suddenly stop speaking. Same thing when you are online. So the key here in all these activities that you see is making sure that there are blocks of 15, 20 minutes. I have been delivering trainings that are for 4 or 5 hours, and time goes very fast because I'm dividing the time in blocks of 15 or 20 minutes, doing a little bit of silent reading, silent listening, group reading, group listening, whole group discussions. We do role plays online, and then people feel that they are not being threatened with doing two activities that are too long and their brains getting tired, but instead they're moving quickly between activities, and there's a lot of learning that goes on. So it's something to keep in mind, especially when we are online. Same thing in person, but especially when we are online. Some online tools that I like to use, and there are many out there, but these are some of the ones that I usually go back very often. Mentimeter and Kahoot as a means of doing polls, getting a quick pulse of what's happening or a quick assessment. Then Padlet, which I like it because it can be something that it's collaborative, but it can also be like for a process portfolio. And what I like about Padlet especially is that you can save it into a PDF and it can be sent as a homework. Flipgrid, I like it because while you can make recordings that are long, I like it because you can have 1 to 2 minute video recordings or audio recordings, and then learners can either respond with a video, respond with audio, or respond with comments. So there you are developing language skills in different ways, right? You're reading, writing, listening, and you are collaborating. You are creating that community. You're creating that space where people are collaborating and getting to know each other or learning from each other. Then we have the TED Talks. TED Talks are very popular. National Geographic incorporates them into their lessons. And but what I like that they have a website that is called TED Ed, where you can customize the lessons based on a TED Talk. And it's something that it's a library of lessons that it's already done, and you can use it as is, or you can make some changes as needed. So I like the part that it saves you time because there are things that are ready, but it also lets you do your own thing and adapt to your own context. YouTube videos, we are very familiar with those. They can be used in the classroom, but YouTube can also be used to develop a speaking portfolio. And the students can collect their videos or their audios depending on how you set it up. And you create your own channel for your students. And then you can set up and this can be done in person too, and you can set up a viewing of those videos, and then everybody learns from each other. But having that portfolio allows them to see their progress from when they started the portfolio speaking to when they finish and complete the course or the grade, and they can see their progress in speaking. Facebook groups also allows you to have important interactions, especially when you have multi-level learners, and they can benefit from the learners that are more proficient in a safe space where they can all grow together. And then Nearpod, I like Nearpod because it has a very good library of lessons and assessments that go all the way from kindergarten to secondary schools, but also higher education. And it includes a lot of topics, different things, different appealing topics to the learners. And I like that they have the lessons ready to use, but you can also customize it to your own class. And they provide support by giving you tutorials on how to use the tool and how to incorporate it into your lesson. So Nearpod is a good site to visit and to explore. Then keep in mind that there are tools for different things. And while you might be able to use them for anything, some are very specific for some things. For diagnostics, the poll apps are really good to get a quick pulse of what happened at the end of the lesson. Kahoot, Mentimeter, Poll Everywhere, and other poll apps. For collaboration, Padlet, as I was mentioning, Flipgrid, that is now called Flip, Google Suite of tools allow that collaboration and that engagement as a community. Then for engaging your students in learning, the Google Suite of tools, the Jamboards, the learning management systems, the Facebook groups. And this allows you to move learning outside of the classroom because there are things that they can do outside, not only when they are with you. And that means exposing them to practicing more English outside of the classroom. And then assessment. You can use Nearpod, YouTube, like I was saying, for speaking portfolios, Google Docs for writing portfolios, Padlet for process portfolios. TED Talks can be used for critical thinking or reflective thinking. So there are many things that you need to consider when choosing the type of app that you're going to use. I have given you only some examples. I could give you, and I will tell you a little bit about that in a minute, but I could give you a whole session on different apps that you can use and how to use them. Some final thoughts, and here I would like to hear your thoughts or read your thoughts in this Jamboard and tell me a little bit about learner engagement and which apps you would like to try out to promote engagement in your lesson. You can write the link as it is, or you can use your camera from your phone to scan the QR code, and that's going to take you to the Jamboard. The Jamboard is going to look a little the Jamboard is going to look a little bit like this, exactly like this. And what you do is you double click here and you write. For those who have not used Jamboard, you write what you think. So learner engagement, let me see, so how do I promote learner engagement? By using blocks of 15 to 20 minutes, for example. And then I just click save, and then it's there. I can, if you noted, you can change the color, right? Whatever you want to use, or you can use, it can be white, but then it doesn't give a good contrast with the Jamboard slide. But answer this question and then answer the other question so I can learn more about what you think. And that way we are sharing and, like I said, creating community. So that is how the Jamboard look. And like I said, you can use the QR code. Let me make this bigger. And then you can use the QR code there to help you give those answers and share the information. Then I wanted to share this with you. So if you want to learn more about learner engagement through virtual apps, there's going to be a whole session in January 2024 with EVO 2024. I am the lead moderator there, and there's a team of Latin American experts in technology that we are developing this session. This is going to be the second delivery of this session. Last year we had around 70 teachers from all over the world, and it was very engaging. It was very interesting. There are other sessions like mindfulness or best practices for teaching online or blended environments, mentoring, translanguaging. There are many sessions there. There are around 20 sessions, and you can join as a participant. But if you feel a little bit courageous, you can also be a moderator. The call for proposals is open and it closes on September the 3rd. If you write to me, I can give you more information, and so that you can have the opportunity to share and learn with others. What I like about EVO, and EVO is a project of TISO International Association, Computer Assisted Language Learning Intersection. What I like about them is that it's a place where you build community and you grow professionally. So I encourage you to be part of that and join the community. So that is it from me. I hope that you enjoyed the session and that you have a lot of questions. Be sure to send me an email. I'm going to write my email here that I had not included it, but I will write it right away. Make sure that you shoot me an email. I will make sure that I reply to you, and that tell me about learner engagement, what you have done, and why is it more relevant after COVID-19 to include and incorporate apps for learner engagement? Thank you for having me today. I hope that you learned at least one new thing, and I hope to hear from you. Thank you very much.